Ever wondered how long Cartman would be locked up if he lived in the real world? Well, I crunched the numbers. And let's just say it's longer than the entire run of South Park times 1,000. From petty vandalism to full-blown terrorism. This foul-mouthed fourth grader has racked up a rap sheet that would make hardened criminals blush. Stick around as we count down Cartman's top 10 most jail-worthy offenses. By the time we hit number 1, you'll be picking your jaw up off the floor. Ever wondered how much toilet paper it takes to land you in the slammer? Well, Cartman's about to give us a masterclass in criminal mischief. Picture this. It's Halloween night in South Park, and our favorite foul-mouthed fourth grader is on a mission. But we're not talking about a harmless prank here. Oh no, Cartman's got bigger plans. Instead of targeting one unlucky house, Cartman decides to go big or go home. He TPs the entire town. But that's just the appetizer in this smorgasbord of destruction. Our little delinquent doesn't stop there. He's smashing pumpkins left and right, turning the streets into a gourd graveyard. Cars? More like targets for his egg-throwing practice. And let's not forget the buildings, now sporting some colorful new artwork, courtesy of Cartman's spray paint cans. By the time he's done, South Park looks like it's been hit by a tornado of teenage angst. The damage? We're talking thousands of dollars. The victims? Pretty much everyone unfortunate enough to call South Park home. In Cartman's twisted mind, this might seem like harmless fun. But in the real world, this isn't just a boys will be boys situation. Here's where things get interesting. In the real world, vandalism isn't just about cleaning up the mess. It's about facing the music. And that music can sound a lot like jail cell doors slamming shut. If the damage is extensive enough, we're not just talking about a slap on the wrist. We're talking felony charges. And Cartman's town-wide destruction, that's definitely in felony territory. So, how long would our pudgy vandal be looking at for his night of fun? Brace yourselves, because it's not just a timeout in the corner. We're talking about 1 to 3 years in juvenile detention. That's a lot of time to think about whether it was worth it to TP the entire town. Remember when we thought Cartman's property destruction was bad? Well, hold on to your hats, because our favorite little psychopath is about to trade in his toilet paper for some brass knuckles. Turns out Cartman's not just good at destroying things, he's even better at destroying people. You see, Cartman's got a temper shorter than Kenny's life expectancy and a hit list longer than the South Park phone book. From beating up Kyle to pelting Pip with dodgeballs, Cartman's violent streak isn't just a running gag, it's a full-on marathon of mayhem. We're talking broken bones, concussions, and enough emotional trauma to keep therapists in business for decades. Now, in the world of South Park, Cartman's fists of fury might get him a stern talking to from Mr. Mackey. But in our reality, those little pudgy hands are basically felony factories. Each punch, kick, and dodgeball assault could stack up as a separate charge. And trust me, judges don't exactly hand out gold stars for consistency when it comes to violence. But here's the kicker. Cartman's attacks aren't just spur-of-the-moment rage fests. Oh no, this kid plans his beatdowns like they're elaborate birthday parties. And in the eyes of the law, premeditation is about as welcome as a fart in an elevator. It doesn't matter if you're 8 or 80, assault is assault, and the law's not exactly known for its sense of humor. So, what does all this mean for our round little ball of rage? Well, according to the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, about 1 in 5 high school students have been in a physical fight in the past year. But Cartman, he's probably racked up that many fights before breakfast. Each of these assaults could land him in juvenile detention, and with his track record, we're not talking about a weekend staycation. In Colorado, where South Park is set, juvenile assault can be classified as a misdemeanor or felony depending on how badly Cartman messed up his victim. And given Cartman's enthusiasm for violence, we're probably looking at the felony end of the spectrum more often than not. You thought Cartman's cruelty was limited to humans? Oh, sweet summer child. Our little psychopath's reign of terror extends to the animal kingdom, and trust me, it's not pretty. In fact, It's enough to make you wonder if South Park's local pound has a most wanted list. Most kids treat their pets like furry royalty, showering them with love, treats, and those ridiculous sweaters no self-respecting animal would be caught dead in. Cartman? He treats his pets like they're disposable toys in a world where PETA doesn't exist. Remember when Cartman broke Kenny's cat's leg? Well, that was just the appetizer in his all-you-can-abuse buffet of animal cruelty. He's force-fed his own cat, used it as bait, and generally treated it like it was less valuable than the litter in its box. It's like he's trying to speedrun his way through the How to Be a Terrible Pet Owner handbook. Now, in the real world, this kind of behavior isn't just frowned upon, it's a fast track to some serious jail time. Animal cruelty laws in Colorado are about as forgiving as a PETA activist at a fur coat convention. We're talking up to 12 years in the slammer for severe cases of animal abuse. And get this, it's not just about protecting our furry friends. Studies have shown that people who abuse animals are more likely to graduate to violent crimes against humans. It's like Animal Abuse 101 is a prerequisite for Psychopath University. Courts are cracking down on animal abusers. Harder than Cartman cracks down on hippies. For repeat offenders like our favorite foul-mouthed fourth grader, we're not just talking about a slap on the wrist anymore. We're talking potential felony charges, people. In recent high-profile cases, animal abusers have been slapped with sentences ranging from 1 to 5 years in prison. And that's not even the worst of it. Many states have implemented animal abuser registries, similar to sex offender lists. Imagine Cartman's face plastered all over town, warning people to hide their pets whenever he waddles by. It's like a no fat kids allowed sign, but for the entire animal kingdom. Ever thought Cartman's get-rich-quick schemes were just harmless fun? Think again. This kid's financial frauds would make Bernie Madoff look like a Girl Scout selling cookies. Remember Cartman's Christian rock band, Faith Pulla One?
I want to let you know the album for my Christian rock band, Faith Plus One, is about to go platinum.
Or how about his Crack Baby Athletic Association? These aren't just South Park gags. They're serious fraud charges waiting to happen. And in the real world, financial crimes can carry heavier sentences than violent ones. Yeah, you heard that right. Beating up Kyle might land Cartman in juvie, but scamming people out of their hard-earned cash? That's a one-way ticket to big boy prison. Let's break it down. Fraud laws vary by state, but generally, these white-collar crimes can lead to some serious time behind bars. We're talking 5 to 20 years, depending on how much money you swindled and how you did it. And given Cartman's track record of success, the kid's got skills, I'll give him that, we're probably looking at millions in ill-gotten gains. Now, you might be thinking, but he's just a kid. Surely they'd go easy on him? Wrong. The justice system doesn't mess around when it comes to financial crimes, no matter how old you are. Take this real-life case. A teenager in California got slapped with a 10-year prison sentence for running a Ponzi scheme that scammed investors out of millions. Sound familiar, Cartman fans? But wait, it gets worse. Remember how elaborate Cartman's schemes usually are? Well, the more complex the fraud, the harsher the punishment. If his scams cross state lines or involved vulnerable people, like, say, crack babies, we could be looking at federal charges. And trust me, you do not want to mess with federal prosecutors. So, what's the damage for our favorite foul-mouthed fraudster? Based on the scale and sophistication of his schemes, Cartman could be facing 10 to 20 years behind bars. That's right, by the time he gets out, he might actually be old enough to grow that beard he's always wanted. Just when you thought Cartman couldn't possibly dig himself a deeper hole, we're about to uncover the dark underbelly of his bigotry. Think dressing up as Hitler for Halloween is just harmless fun? Think again. In the real world, Cartman's playful prejudices could land him in a cell faster than you can say, "Respect my authority." Let's face it, Cartman's mouth has always been his worst enemy, but now it's about to become his cellmate. You see, hate crimes aren't just about hurting someone's feelings. They're serious offenses that can come with some pretty hefty consequences. And our favorite foul-mouthed fourth grader? He's basically a walking, talking hate crime waiting to happen. From his constant anti-Semitic attacks on Kyle to his racist tirades, Cartman's bigotry knows no bounds. But here's the kicker. In the real world, hate speech can quickly escalate to hate crimes. And Cartman doesn't just talk the talk, he walks the walk, often with a violent swagger. Remember when he dressed up as Hitler for Halloween? Or led a Nazi rally? Yeah, those aren't just edgy jokes in the eyes of the law. In many states, these actions could be classified as hate crimes, carrying enhanced penalties that would make even Cartman's eyes bulge out of his head. But wait, there's more. Did you know that a whopping 20% of hate crime offenders are under 18? That's right, our boy Eric is about to become a statistic. And given his history of repeat offenses, judges wouldn't exactly be rolling out the red carpet for him in court. So ever thought about how many years you'd get for trying to off your own mother? Well, Cartman's about to find out. This kid's got a hit list longer than the South Park phone book, and he's not afraid to use it. Remember when he left Butters to die in an abandoned refrigerator? That's not just a twisted prank. It's a full-blown attempted murder charge. Now, you might think that since Cartman's just a kid, he'd get a slap on the wrist. Think again. In the real world, attempted murder is almost as serious as the real deal, especially when it's premeditated. And let me tell you, Cartman's attempts are about as premeditated as they come. He plans his murder schemes with more detail than most kids plan their birthday parties. But here's where it gets really messed up. Many of Cartman's targets are other children. In the eyes of the law, that's not just bad, it's worse. It's like he's speedrunning his way to a life sentence. And remember, we're not talking about a one-time thing here. Cartman's got a whole portfolio of attempted murders. Each one of these could land him 15 to 25 years in juvie. Let's put this in perspective. A 16-year-old in Texas got 20 years for trying to kill a classmate during a fight. Cartman's crimes make that look like a playground scuffle. His attempts are so frequent and well-planned, the judge would probably need a calculator to add up all the charges. Ever wondered what would happen if a fourth grader decided to cosplay as Osama bin Laden? Well, strap in, because Cartman's about to make Al-Qaeda look like a bunch of Girl Scouts selling cookies. Remember when Cartman tried to wipe out an entire religious group or hijacked a plane? These aren't just wacky schemes anymore, folks. We're talking full-blown terrorism. And the sentences for that make attempted murder look like a slap on the wrist. Let's take a stroll down Cartman's terrorist memory lane, shall we? In the episode World War Zimmerman, our little psychopath decided to go on a plane hijacking spree. And we're not talking about stealing one measly aircraft. No, Cartman managed to hijack multiple planes, resulting in an estimated 800,000 deaths. That's right, 800,000. That's like wiping out the entire population of Seattle and then some. But wait, there's more. Remember when Cartman formed the American Liberation Front? No, it wasn't a patriotic book club. He held hostages at a P.F. Chang's restaurant. Because nothing says I love America like threatening innocent people trying to enjoy their Kung Pao chicken, right? Now, let's talk consequences. In the real world, terrorism charges are about as serious as it gets. We're not just talking about a timeout in the corner here. The U.S. legal system doesn't mess around with terrorism, especially when it involves mass casualties. Life sentences without parole are on the table, and that's if you're lucky. But Cartman? Oh, Cartman's in a league of his own. Based on the 800,000 deaths from his hijacking spree alone, our little terrorist could be looking at a sentence of, wait for it, 32 million years. That's right, 32 million. To put that in perspective, the dinosaurs went extinct about 66 million years ago. Cartman would be halfway to seeing T-Rex roam the Earth again by the time he got out. Remember when Cartman formed his own private militia? Or that time he tried to start a race war? Well, folks, it turns out our pudgy little psychopath wasn't just playing soldier, he was committing full-blown war crimes. That's right, we're talking Geneva Convention violations, international criminal court level stuff. And let me tell you, the real world doesn't take kindly to pint-sized war criminals. You might be thinking, but he's just a kid. Surely they can't prosecute him for that? Oh, my sweet summer child. International courts have prosecuted war criminals as young as 14. So Cartman's get-out-of-jail-free card just got revoked faster than Kenny's latest resurrection. Now, let's talk about the consequences. We're not just looking at a timeout in juvie here. Nope, we're talking about the kind of punishment that makes life in prison look like a weekend at Casa Bonita. The most severe sentences for war crimes can reach life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. That means Cartman could be trading in his cheesy poofs for prison gruel until he's old enough to collect Social Security. If he lives that long. Don't believe me? Just ask Radovan Karadzic and Ratko Mladic. These guys got life sentences for their roles in the Bosnian War. And something tells me Cartman's body count might just give theirs a run for their money. Ever thought Cartman's previous crimes were bad? Well, hold on to your hat, because we're about to dive into the deep end of his criminal pool. We're talking mass murder on a scale that would make most supervillains blush. Let's face it, Cartman's treating South Park like his personal Grand Theft Auto game, except the NPCs are real people. Throughout the series, our favorite little psychopath has racked up a body count that would make Charles Manson look like a Boy Scout. We're not just talking about a few accidents here and there. No, we're dealing with hundreds, possibly thousands of premeditated murders. In the real world, each of these deaths would be a separate charge. Can you imagine the paperwork? The poor clerk would need carpal tunnel surgery before they finish typing up all the indictments. We're talking multiple life sentences stacked on top of each other like a grotesque game of Jenga. Now, you might be thinking, but he's just a kid. Surely they go easy on him. Think again, even for juveniles. Mass murder isn't exactly something you can write off as boys will be boys. In fact, many states allow for life sentences without parole for minors convicted of such heinous crimes. Remember the Parkland school shooting in 2018? The shooter, who was 15 at the time, got life in prison without parole. And that was for 17 victims. Cartman's numbers make that look like amateur hour. But wait, it gets worse. Many of Cartman's murders aren't just premeditated, they're elaborately planned. We're talking schemes more detailed than most kids' birthday party plans. In the eyes of the law, that level of premeditation is like adding gasoline to an already raging dumpster fire. Just when you thought Cartman couldn't possibly commit any more crimes, he goes and breaks the laws of physics. That's right, folks. Our favorite little psychopath has decided that ruining people's lives in the present isn't enough. He's got to mess with the past and future, too. In several episodes, Cartman dabbles in time travel, altering history for his own selfish gains. And let me tell you, if there were laws against temporal terrorism, Cartman would be public enemy number one. I mean, the kid tried to join the Confederacy. Talk about picking the wrong side of history. But Cartman's temporal crimes go way beyond just trying to change the outcome of the Civil War. He's messed with the future, potentially erased people from existence, and altered the course of human history. It's like he's playing a twisted game of choose your own adventure with the entire universe. Now, I know what you're thinking, but there are no laws against time travel. And you're right, for now. But if there were, Cartman would be in a world of trouble. We're not just talking about earthly justice here. This would be the trial of the millennium, with Cartman facing judgment from all of space and time. Imagine the philosophical and ethical implications. How do you punish someone for erasing people from existence? What's the sentence for altering the fabric of reality? It's enough to make even the most seasoned judge's head spin. So, what kind of punishment would fit Cartman's crimes against time? Well, it'd have to be something beyond human comprehension. Maybe he'd be erased from history himself, forced to experience the non-existence he so carelessly inflicted on others. Or perhaps he'd be trapped in a time loop, reliving his crimes for eternity. And boy, does he ever! This pint-sized psychopath has committed so many crimes, he'd be serving multiple life sentences before he even hit puberty. But here's the kicker. We laugh at Cartman's antics. Why? Because through his outrageous behavior, we get to explore the absurdity of human nature in a way that's both hilarious and horrifying. It's like holding up a funhouse mirror to society, except the reflection is a foul-mouthed fourth grader with a rap sheet longer than the South Park phone book. So next time you're chuckling at Cartman's latest scheme, remember, in the real world, he'd be locked up tighter than Fort Knox. And let's be honest, that's probably where he belongs.